The Goat House is back. Every year on day one of the NFL draft, there are surprise prospects that no one expected that get selected. So in this video, we're going to try to identify those potential surprise first round picks, and we'll talk about which teams could possibly take them if they do go in round one. Iowa State receiver Jaylin Noel, a well-known prospect, but a well-known day two prospect, and he most likely goes in round two. But if we had to pick out some prospects that could be very sneaky and go in round one, he definitely has to be one of them because he is polished on the field and he is a freak athlete. He showcased that in multiple categories of the combine where his stock was up, and that shows on the field too. He's a dominant, polished slot receiver, really good footwork, really good route runner. For a shorter guy, he can go up and catch the ball. He's got some good hands, can make some contested catches. The only thing he doesn't have going for him is that height. I say if he was 6 feet tall or a little taller, I bet you would easily be a first round pick. So my thinking, probably going to go round two, but there might be a few teams or just a single team out there that doesn't focus on the height and they focus on everything else. Freak athleticism, polished receiver, pretty safe pick, going to get separation, going to get open, going to make plays, going to catch the ball. So which teams? That's why for all these guys, I listed teams that if they were gonna go surprisingly in round one, who would take them. So you'll see a lot of the same teams pop up in this video again and again, because if these guys were gonna go one, they'd probably be late first round picks. So we're kind of looking at the late teams, but the Packers stand out. Maybe the most likely, I'd say the Packers and the Rams would be the most likely to do it on the best fits late round one if Noel was gonna go in round one. So the Packers were interested in Cooper Kupp, a slot receiver. They have Jaden Reed. He's a slot receiver, solid, a little inconsistent. Really a gadget guy for right now. Could do a little bit more. Noel is a lot more of a slot receiver. Like he can work and get open every level on the field. Packers don't typically take a receiver in round one. Maybe that could change. Just seems like a good fit. Rams, perfect fit in the slot. Pair him with Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, an elite trio of receiver group for Matthew Stafford in his last couple of years. Again, Adams is on a 2-year deal, not going to be around forever. Steelers will probably be the absolute ceiling. That's a team that could use a slot receiver to pair with their big guys. They added DK Metcalf to George Pickens already, so they could use a slot like Noel. That would be that very, very ceiling. I would identify as the first round teams to watch if he were to go first, Packers and Rams. But again, if he were to go where he's most likely going to go, second round, I think the Titans would like him early second. To pair with their quarterback that they take, possibly at the first overall pick. The Jags would make some sense. The Jets, maybe around the floor, I could definitely see them taking him, in the second round. But these are the teams to watch if he's surprisingly a first round pick. TreVeyon Henderson, one of two Ohio State backs that should go fairly early. Maybe this wouldn't surprise a ton of people. He is talked about as a possible first round prospect by some, not many. It would surprise me though. In a way, there's also part of me that thinks a specific team might just do it. We'll get to that. But to me, he is most likely not an every down back. He's most likely a shared backfield, probably a high-end RB2. His explosive ability says round one, but the vision's a little lacking. He does have multiple injuries on the same foot. So it does, to me, I wouldn't love it as a first-round pick, even though I think he'd be good for a team. He'd be very productive, but he could be a sneaky first-round option here. And the ceiling is the 20th pick to the Broncos. The floor, is somewhere in the middle of the second round. Several running back needy teams will be targeting running back there. But I look at the Broncos for several reasons. They're looking for a back, and Sean Payton has a type. He wants an athletic back that can catch the ball out of the backfield, that can just be overall, not just a running back, a weapon, an overall weapon. And Henderson, with his explosive ability, he could be that guy. And Peyton's going to want not just a lone backfield. He's going to want to use 2, 3, 4, running backs at times. So it just makes sense as a fit. Again, I wouldn't love it in the first round. I don't think he'd be bad or anything, but And another thing, Sean Payton does not care what other people's boards look like. Obviously, if he really likes a guy, he's going to make sure he goes and gets him, even if it's at the 20th pick. So it would feel like it's a little early, but I totally could see it. Every time I make mock drafts, first round, I get to that Broncos pick, and I'm like, man, I could totally see them making this somewhat surprising pick there. But I always have somebody that's just too good to pass available when I'm making mocks at 20. But is Sean Payton a too good to pass type of guy, or is he a guy that just goes and gets his guy that he feels is the best fit, the type of guy he wants? He's more of that guy. So could also see the Chargers if he surprisingly goes in round one. Harbaugh and Greg Roman pairing him with Najee Harris, who's on a one-year deal, and they pair together pretty well. So I could see that as well. Harbaugh getting a Big Ten guy here. And the Commanders are a team that kind of sneakily needs a running back. I'm sure it's not that sneaky to Commanders fans. They probably know all about their team. But Brian Robinson Jr., I think he's solid. He's underwhelming at times. He's only got one more year left in his contract. And Austin Eckler, obviously, not going to be a long-term guy, of course. Helped them last year, but could see it there. I think there are better running back prospects than Henderson, in my opinion. He's my RB5, but he's very fun, very explosive. And then obviously very solid as well, but a team that just could be blown away about with his explosive ability and take him in round one. Another Ohio State Buckeye, Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle, can obviously play the nose alignment as well. A dominant run stuffer, was awesome in the playoffs. I mean, the whole team, whole Ohio State team was ridiculous in the playoffs. He was definitely one of them. Again, he was mocked a lot earlier in the process in the first, but that definitely went away. Not really talked about much at all right now, but he could definitely, there's teams that are desperate for run stopping help, and he has more upside to be a player that has more to his game than just that. So, I could see, again, it would be the maximum ceiling to me around the Steelers pick, but I really look at a team like the Buffalo Bills. Like if he were to go in the first round, it would probably be late. The Buffalo Bills definitely need more defensive line help. Specifically, they need guys that can stop the run, and they need guys off the edge that can get after the quarterback. So Williams, a potential option to pair with Ed Oliver for the long run. But yeah, teams like the Chargers, Steelers, Commanders. I would have said Rams, but they signed Poona Ford, and they already have a couple options there. But teams that are looking to stop the run, and here you have a solid defensive tackle that played like a first-round pick in the playoffs at least. I know he's not super productive, but the guy can play, so that's a name that isn't being talked about a ton right now that actually could surprise people and go in round one. And another defensive tackle, Alfred Collins of Texas, very similar situation. I could see him in the same range as Tyleik Williams. It's a guy that Alfred Collins lined up all over the defensive line for Texas, but he is a dominant run stuffer. Absolutely dominant. Why he's not talked about as a first-round pick at all is because he's not really productive getting after the quarterback, and he's a little slow off the ball, off the snap. So that's something he could work on, but I mean, if you draft Alfred Collins, who's probably going to go in the second round, but he could be a little sneaky and go round one, you're instantly going to upgrade your run defense. Like, that's for sure. Even if he's underwhelming getting after the quarterback, maybe he's not on the field on obvious passing downs early on in his career, you are going to improve your run defense. So some similar teams there. I think Tyleik Williams maybe has a shot to go a tiny bit earlier than Collins. It's debatable. It's really going to depend on the team, but you'll see some similar teams pop up if we were going to go in round one. Teams that not only need a D tackle, but need it that badly where they could reach a little bit on a guy like this, and they need run-stopping help. I can see the Commanders as well. They have a number of D tackles, but man, they got to improve stopping a run. That was what killed them last year, and they have not improved doing that. I know they added Kinlaw. It's not really a run-stuffing defensive tackle. Johnny Newton, not really a run-stuffing defensive tackle. Jerome Payton, those linebackers that's not the best part of their game, right? They have flashy ability. There's other parts of their game that stand out a little bit more. It's just really Jerome Payton carrying that group, stopping the run. So they desperately need someone else out there. So I could see it late first round, perhaps, for a team like the Washington Commanders and Alfred Collins or a Tyleik Williams, one of those types of defensive tackles. Maybe they get lucky and one of those obvious top four guys slips a little bit. We'll see. Josiah Stewart, the edge rusher from Michigan, a well-known name, but you never see him mocked in the first. It's because he is severely undersized for an edge rusher when it comes for sure to height and with arm length, but it's not as severe when it comes to arm length, so that's a good thing. He is so solid, though. He doesn't play like he's undersized. He's tough. He's physical. He knows how to get after the quarterback. Extremely explosive get off. The first thing I look for when I watch pass rushers, I think everyone should be looking for it, but maybe it's just me. I look at how explosive their get off is. Do they get off the ball quick enough? Are they delayed? Are they slow? Are they, he reminds me a little bit of Chop Robinson last year. I think Chop got off a little bit quicker, but the way they explode off the ball is eye-popping. You cannot coach that stuff at this point of their career. You don't see it improve much, if at all. So, and he does a good job getting after the quarterback. He has different pass rush moves. He can drop in coverage, so he brings a lot to the table. He's just very undersized. So does an undersized guy like this go in the first round? There are some people that think it's kind of a weaker class outside the top few elite guys, and it's a little stronger in day 2, meaning there's a bunch of legit round 2 and round 3 picks. So therefore, does a team just take a guy like this where his talent says round 1, even though he's maybe labeled a round 2 guy because of his size? Do they take him in round 1 just because maybe the lack of other talent? I think there's plenty of talent, but I definitely could see there being a team. And again, he brings more to the table than just a pass rusher. He can drop in coverage. I could see him going as early as the 19th pick. Again, I think the Bucs probably, that's who picks 19, they probably would prefer someone a little bigger, just knowing them. But they definitely could use a pass rusher. I like him as a 3-4 outside linebacker as an edge rusher. So kind of looking at those schemes specifically here, I could totally see the Ravens. I mean, then you have the Chargers. We have the Harbaugh and Minter connection. He didn't play. He played a little bit. He was a rotation guy when they were there a year ago. But it seemed like he fit Martindale's defense a little bit more this year. So maybe not the Chargers for that reason. Maybe if he's available in round 2. I want to throw a team like the Eagles in here too. The last pick in the first round, could totally see the Eagles. The Ravens are the team that kind of stands out because they like having their pass rushers being able to drop in coverage, and it would be a scheme fit here, and they also are just looking for more consistent help. And he'd be more consistent than what they have, but more undersized than what they have. That's kind of the question there. But if you watch him on tape, and the talent, the production, the athleticism, the toughness, it says first round. It really does. It's just teams really value size and length when it comes to edge rushers especially. How about Arkansas pass rusher Landon Jackson? This would be a big reach for me. I watch him on tape, and I'm really nowhere near the first round, but there are a lot of things. I mean, he's semi-productive. He's got the length, the size, and apparently he's a freak athlete. I don't think it matches too much on tape. I think he's a little tight on tape, but you could see he's an athlete. You could see he can get after the quarterback. He's got size. He's got length, but I think a team's going to look at him and go, yeah, I mean, he checks a lot of boxes for us. He's a freak athlete, apparently. It's a guy we want to work with, and there's going to be some teams at the back end of the first round where schematically he really fits. Does he fit as a first-round pick, though? I would disagree, but I could see it because some of these teams in the back end of the first round might not have a long list of top-tier pass rushers available to them because the best in the class will go early, then there's a drop-off, so they may view him as a fit as a defensive end in these schemes, and they may take him. Detroit Lions, yeah, they're looking for a defensive end. He would be a scheme fit for them. Typically like longer athletic pass rushers. I could see it. At the same time, it just for some reason, since Brad Holmes has taken over as GM for the Lions, we seem to have we don't discuss our boards, obviously, but we seem to have an agreement, even with surprising prospects, maybe not 100% of the time. So this wouldn't be a me pick. So maybe, doesn't necessarily mean that maybe it wouldn't be a Brad Holmes pick, but it'd be pretty interesting if they took him. I definitely could see it as a fit. It's just too early in round 1. I mainly look at teams like the Commanders and the Bills, even though he does fit the Lions. I was almost going to go as high as the Green Bay Packers, scheme fit, but either they overdrafted Van Ness according to my board, so could they do Landon Jackson? Maybe. But Commanders, desperate for a pass rusher. They built on the offensive side of the ball in free agency. They did barely anything to their defense, and especially defensive end. The big boys, the more talented guys at the position will be gone by their late first-round pick. So they might not be left with I think this is going to be better on the board than Jackson, in my opinion, but they might pull the trigger, and Dan Quinn might love to have him as a defensive end in his scheme. Could they trade up? They already traded so many picks, so could they trade? Could they trade up for a better pass rusher? We'll see. In the Buffalo Bills, they'll sometimes make some odd picks, some out there picks. Not crazy out there, but they like long athletic pass rushers. They need another one. I totally could see that. The Commanders and Lions used to make off-the-wall picks, but they've definitely changed staffs since then. Commanders very recently. Their last front office, they were pretty bad at drafting. That you could totally feel. We're getting off topic. You totally could see what they were picking which guy they were taking before the draft started. No matter how the board fell, they would have guys in their lap, and they were like, no, we're still going to take the guy kind of we narrowed down to and end up being a reach. So they did that a bit. off topic, but I totally can see them taking a guy like Landon Jackson just because they're desperate for a pass rusher and the fit. Same thing with a team like the Buffalo Bills. I think this one would be a reach for these teams in the first round, though. Another pass rusher, Braden Swinson of LSU, formerly with the Oregon Ducks. He went off on a breakout year this year for LSU. His pass rush ability, just strictly his pass rush ability with the length, mainly the length, but physicality, but then the get off, super explosive, the pass rush moves, the ability to win reps, get after the quarterback, get production, all that alone, it might be a first round player. But he has a big negative when it comes to run defense. Mainly, I mean, he could tackle, right? It's not like the ball carrier needs to be right in front of him from the tackle either. He's got some range. He just does not hold the edge. He will take himself out of plays so much. Could you work with that? Sure. Could you work on that, I should say? Work with them? Sure. But I've seen that a ton. It showed up, especially in a game like Alabama with Jalen Milroe. A lot of read option. He just keep the ball and take it outside, and Swinson already pulled himself way inside and got himself blocked, took himself out of the play. I mean, it happened more than just that game. And that is why Oregon did not love him. That is exactly the reason he could not set the edge for them. So that's a negative. It's something you can work with, but man, him getting after the quarterback is something. It might be first round level. It's that good. And he just kind of flashed that this year, so he has upside. So be an interesting one, but there might be a team out there. That's why I identified him as one of these surprise guys that go in the first, because there might be a team or two or three that goes, we'll work on that run defense. We want to get someone that we're looking for a guy to get after the quarterback, first and foremost. So we'll take that and we'll work on the rest. Eagles, last pick of the first round. Again, I'm not expecting them to go first just because that run defense is such a big weakness, but because how good he is as a pass defender, getting after the quarterback, maybe. I would prefer him as a 3-4 outside linebacker. So we talked about, Stewart would be that scheme. Landon Jackson would be more so a 4-3 end. Swinson, I'd prefer him as an outside linebacker, as an edge rusher, but I think could be pretty scheme versatile. But the Commanders, Dan Quinn doesn't really seem to care about what scheme pass rushers fit. Look at Micah Parsons for an example. So I think they would take a shot. And the Chiefs kind of feels like a Kansas City Chiefs type pass rusher to play opposite of Karlaftis. They couldn't, use some more help there getting after the quarterback, but maybe more likely to be a round 2 pick. Could even slip to round 3 just because how bad he is right now, holding the edge, which is pretty important for an edge defender. Early on in his career, he might just be a pass down specialist, but he could be a pretty good one. Just how early do you take that is the question. Carson Schwessinger, linebacker from UCLA, starting to get a little bit of a buzz lately, but well known as a round 2 guy. Could he sneak in the back end of the first round? I felt like the linebacker position became more valuable this past year, perhaps. I mean, Zach Bond being an example of that. The Eagles never, ever, ever valued linebacker, and they kind of do, and he helps them win the Super Bowl, one of the better defensive players of football this year. And Schwessinger is a smart, instinctive linebacker that can be used in the blitz game, knows how to get in the backfield. He's rangy and fairly athletic. His negatives are, lacking some power, could put a little bit more strength, some more power on him. Doesn't really shed blocks super well, so that's kind of what holds you back from saying he's a first-round player. But again, teams might be starting to value linebacker a little bit more. Again, he has that blitzing upside, and he's really starting to get better as well. Buccaneers looking for a linebacker. They always like linebackers that can blitz. He has some upside there. He's not the best blitzing linebacker in the world, but I really think he has upside there. So I could definitely see them. Or a team like the Steelers, or maybe they're more in the market of Jihad Campbell, a more likely first-round prospect if he's there. But if he's gone and they're desperate for a linebacker, maybe they fall in love with a guy like that. And then the Bills in the back end of the first, Matt Milano's not going to be around much longer. He also keeps getting injured. Pair a guy like this with Bernard could make some sense. But linebacker with some upside here, as long as he could add a little bit more strength. So a team might go, there's a lot of things that say first round, and we could, in our program, we could totally get him to be a little stronger, more powerful, be able to teach him how to shed blocks a little better. Than boom, he's a first round player. So for those reasons, I could see it being a surprise first round pick. Kevin Winston Jr., the Penn State safety. I thought about putting a couple safeties in this video. Makuba, Bowman. I think these guys could be a little sneaky. I really think they're firm day 2 guys, though. Winston, again, probably a second-round pick, but if there was one of those safeties that we're going to sneak in the first round, I think it could be him because he's a freak athlete. He's got some really good play on tape. He's pretty rangy, knows how to get downhill, make plays, just overall create for the defense. I guess he's not like a super instinctive playmaker all the way in the back end, but that's the thing. When I watch him, Penn State lined him up at free safety, technically played free safety much, much, much more than strong safety. But when you watch him and where he thrives, getting downhill, the moments he is in the box, all those moments, that's where he's great. So to me, he is most definitely more of a strong safety at the next level. So he's already got really good play on tape, being a rangy, athletic playmaker. Not necessarily getting his hands on the ball, but just making plays, finding the ball carrier as a playmaker. And he was kind of playing out of position, so teams got to be going, that's a guy like in the right spot, but he also could be versatile piece for us. Man, he could be really, really good. So I think a team could go, okay, guy would be a first-round player for us. So I can see the Vikings, Brian Flores' defense, maybe they'll be in the market for more of a free safety, but getting a guy like this, because they have a bunch of guys that can play either spot. I think Theo Jackson can line up either spot. Harrison Smith can line up, and he's always lined up at both spots. He's going to go one more year probably. Winston could do both for them. Could even blitz him. Flores loves that. So I can see the Vikings that being the kind of the ceiling. The Commanders losing Jeremy Chin. This could be a grade A replacement here for them. And the Eagles trying to replace C.J. Gardner-Johnson. They'll move around their safeties a bit too. Split safety, then you have a strong and a free, and he can play either spot. Obviously, again, he played more free. It feels like he's more suited for strong, and that's where he has, you can actually say his first-round talent at the right position. So that's why he is on this video as well. But there's some sneaky safeties in this class. We'll talk more about them with more upcoming videos as we get closer to the draft, really talking about all prospects. And I had to throw Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart in here as well, even though it wouldn't shock a ton. Quarterbacks are really never that shocking if they go earlier than expected because they're quarterbacks. Teams looking for fifth-year option. Teams are desperate for the most important position. But I think this would surprise some people, but it's more about the pick could be surprising. Let's say Cam Ward goes 1, which I'm expecting. Shedeur Sanders going 2 to the Browns, which I'm expecting. Maybe not as much as Ward, but I'm confident with both those. Then the Giants, are they just that desperate for a quarterback? Do they go and it would be a good fit. Do they go Jackson Dart at pick 3, or do the Saints at pick 9? I totally can see that. There's some buzz about the Jets at 7. I don't think they do it there. They just paid Fields $40 million. It's only a 2-year deal. Could they do it? I would prefer Dart over Fields, to be honest, but maybe not right away. That's the thing with Dart. Needs to sit. Coming from that Lane Kiffin Ole Miss offense, it's a much different jump, going from an NFL offense, and him playing under center could be a little bit of a challenge, but he could go. I'm not counting on it, but he could go as early as that 3rd or that 9th, or some people may say 7th pick. Typically, teams, and I don't believe it either, don't believe in trading back for a quarterback, because if you're trading back for a quarterback, you're basically saying he's not worth it. You're only taking a quarterback if you believe he's worth it. This guy could be not just good, he can be a franchise great starting quarterback. So you don't trade back and target a backwards picks and target a quarterback with that pick. It's just a big no. And the last time a team did it was the Bills with E.J. Manuel. So yeah, you don't do it. And so I think that if the Giants were to take them, I think it would be 3rd pick, not counting on it. But I could totally see the Giants, if they miss out one of the quarterbacks, trading up, or the Browns. The Browns, if they don't take a quarterback at 2, or the Titans if they don't take a quarterback at 1, but I think they are. They could trade up from the 2nd round, so trading up for a quarterback into the end of the 1st round to get a 5th-year option on Jackson Dart. That makes a lot of sense. So the opposite of trading back for the quarterback. Saints could do it at 9. Could they trade up from the end of the 2nd round? Maybe. Steelers might sign Aaron Rodgers. They may not. If they have him, whether they have him or don't, they might need a quarterback of the future. I think Arthur Smith would like Jackson Dart in the scheme, so could they take him at 21? Maybe the Seahawks, because Sam Darnold's not really locked in based on the contract structure for long term, but it's kind of hard where they just kind of put a lot of faith in Sam Darnold, and they need to build a lot more around him right now because they made everything else worse, and the offensive line might be the worst in football right now. So it would kind of would be pretty contradicting of them to take a quarterback in the 1st round. We can see that as well. Again, teams can move up that missed out on a quarterback earlier in 1st, get them later in the 1st. So interesting prospect here to watch. Is he going to be a round 1 guy? Is he going to be a round 2 guy? You think for sure he would go in the second round, if not the first, but we will see. It seems like everyone's kind of split on him. To me, there's no question there's talent there. He has poise, he has toughness, he has talent. It's so simplified. Everything's schemed up in that offense, and there's no under center, and he didn't look too great under center in the reps. It's just very small sample size at the Senior Bowl practices, but so to me, I hope he lands in a really good situation where he can really absorb a lot and learn and sit for a year, even 2, and then I think he's going to be good. It's really going to depend on the situation there, but I worry if a team like the Giants are, and I do think he could fit Brian Daboll's offense very well, but I worry if they are desperate enough to take quarterback at 3, take Dart at 3, they're got to be starting him, right? So I worry about that a little bit. Him just getting thrown in too early for him, too early into situation. The Giants hasn't really worked out for a lot of other players there. They seem to play better elsewhere. They play the worst football for them. Hopefully that won't be the case going forward, but I worry a little bit about that. But at least he has guys like Malik Neighbors to throw to if that's the case. So we'll see. But that wraps up for this one. Of course, there could be more surprise first-round picks. Comment which guys you think could be sneaky, go a lot earlier than how everyone's talking right now. We'd love to see your guys' opinion here in the comments. We're going to have a lot more videos like this, talking about fits, more mock drafts coming, rankings, at a recent offensive ranking by position video. It's draft season. I'm excited. Hopefully you join us. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.